remotest village to the biggest city. Everywhere you look in the Gambia, you see children. But why are there so many young people here? And how does it affect the geography of the country? What impact does a young and growing population have on resources? How does the government make sure there are sufficient services? How do large families meet basic needs like food and clothes? How can the growth rate be slowed down? This programme's about the way Gambia's people, its government and other organisations are meeting the challenges, making sure that today's young Gambians have a sustainable future. It's Friday lunchtime, and Jammeh Sané and some of his children are on their way to prayers at the local mosque in Serakunda, near the capital Banjul. With 13 living children from 2 wives, Jammeh may not be a typical Gambian, but he's not that unusual either. 95% of the Gambia's population are Muslim. Women and girls are not allowed into the mosque. They also have little say about how many children they have. Until recently, most religious teachers discouraged contraception and family planning. But religious beliefs aren't the only reason that large families are commonplace in the Gambia.
Discussing matters relating to sex and sexuality is culturally a taboo, in this country, particularly with young people. Young people like your kids, it's not generally done in our culture, in our families, in our tradition.
At just over 10,000 square kilometres, the Gambia is Africa's smallest country. It's dominated by the River Gambia, which flows for 487 kilometres. Whilst Jammeh and his family live near the capital Banjul, many Gambians live in rural areas. They keep goats and cattle and grow rice, maize and groundnuts to feed themselves or sell for cash. For these families, there's another reason to have lots of children.
People had the belief that the more hands you have, the better for you in terms of agricultural production, because they can assist you on the farm, in your crop production. Okay, that has been the idea a long time. And as a result, people are raising, large families.
For many Gambians, including Jammeh, religious, cultural and economic beliefs combine to create a preference for large families. The birth rate, or the number of children born per 1,000 population each year, is 40, more than 3 times as many as most more economically developed countries, or MEDCs. The result is that the Gambia has one of the youngest populations of any country in the world. The high birth rate means Gambia's population pyramid has a wide base. This narrows quickly because a lot of people die before they reach 40. With few medical facilities, 11 mothers die for every 1,000 children born. The infant mortality rate is 73 per 1,000 live births, the 35th highest in the world. Average life expectancy is just 53 for men and 57 for women. And Gambia's youthful population is also a growing one. By 2050, its pyramid is expected to look like this. That's because at current growth rates, its population is expected to double every 28 years. With so many young people to provide for, parents like Jammeh struggle to meet all their needs, creating what's called a high dependency ratio. A country's dependency ratio tells us about the number of people who are of working age and those who are dependent on them. To work it out, Add the percentage of the population under 15 and over 64 and divide that by the percentage of people who are of working age. In the Gambia, 45% are under 15, 3% are over 65, and 52% are of working age. So the dependency ratio is just over 92%. In other words, for every 100 people who are of working age, there are just under 93 who need looking after. More people means more pressure on resources, and this creates numerous challenges for a cash-strapped government.
Once you have faced with this issue of population growing, the situation becomes complex for the government, particularly in terms of providing the needs of that population, be it in terms of health, it becomes a challenge, be it in terms of education, it becomes another issue, be it in terms of providing their other basic needs.
The World Health Organization says population growth and poverty are always linked. This is the main street in Serekunda, Gambia's largest settlement. Like many roads in the Gambia, this one's unpaved. As the population grows, towns are expanding rapidly, and the government doesn't have the money to build the infrastructure that's needed. The town where Jame lives is also growing, and like many Gambians, he struggles to provide his large family with even basic housing.
You can see this room. Okay, he's my second wife. She has 8 kids. Okay, that's her room here. Okay, that's her bedroom with the kids. Okay. Okay, sometimes during the night time.
So 9 people sleep in that bed?
Yeah, no, not in bed, same bed here, but I can say presently 7 are on this bed here. Really, 7 on this, because there's another sponge. They used to put it down there. During night time, they lie on it.
Okay.
So that's the place. This is the place where
Jame lives, there's no sanitation or running water. The family toilet's just a hole in the ground. When it's full, Jame and his neighbours will dig a new one somewhere else. There is electricity here, but few can afford it. Jame's recently been cut off because he couldn't pay his bill. And that's not his only financial problem. Although he works full-time, the £30 a month he earns as a nurse at Gambia's main hospital doesn't provide enough to feed the 22 people who depend on him. The pan of rice being cooked by Morocco and her mother is the only food the whole family gets on most days. But compared to some, Jame's family are doing well. With the growing population adding to high unemployment and underemployment, many Gambians often go hungry. And the young and growing population isn't just affecting family resources, it's creating bigger challenges too. With no money to build new schools, this one has 3,000 students and only 26 classrooms. Like many others in the Gambia, it's had to adopt a 2-shift system. Half the children come to school in the morning and the other half in the afternoon. With a shortage of teachers, some have to work more than 12 hours a day. And all this with very limited learning materials.
So these are some of the textbooks. This is social studies. We have only 11 of them. We need about 45 textbooks and we have only 11 SES. Likewise, English also, we lack textbooks, mathematics, and all the subjects, so social studies, science. This English, this is the one I use. We lack English textbooks. This is the one I use. Science, we have this one, and they are very, very old. Some papers are broken. very old. Yes, very, very old.
But lack of books isn't the only problem. This block of 6 toilets has to serve the entire school.
The ratio is 1:250, which is awful. So during the break period, you can find a long queue of 20, 30, 50 children all waiting to use the toilet facility at the same time. So I think there is real need to work hard as quickly as possible because it is becoming a health hazard.
More people also use more resources. 20 years ago, this land was covered with forest. Today, it's only fit for passing herds of nomadic goats. And this is one of the reasons it's become so degraded. Every day, vast numbers of trees are chopped down and taken out of the forest, destined to become firewood for Gambia's growing urban population. The situation is so serious that at the present rate of destruction, nearly all Gambia's forests will disappear within 50 years. Today, Gambians are amongst the poorest people in the world. But despite meagre resources, with the help of government policies and foreign aid, they are meeting the challenges created by their youthful population. And the most important challenge of all is slowing the growth rate down.
I talked with my wife about that we could stop it now. Really, she is very, very happy about it. She is very, very happy about it.
He may not want to talk about it, but for the first time in his life, Jammeh Sane and his wives have started using contraception. For the government, it's another success story, brought about in part by a massive awareness campaign.
Okay.
Akudi ma fa momenti wala minti ko ni ya mi ngobula wati doron isi kono tanu.
This advert, made by the Gambian Family Planning Authority, is one of many TV adverts that are broadcast every day in an effort to raise awareness of contraception. But not everyone in the Gambia has access to a television, so the awareness campaign uses different methods to get through to people. Ensa Singate and his family live 200 miles upriver in a remote part of the country, near Georgetown. They get their information via the radio, and right now they're listening to a weekly program called Fankanta. The phone-in topic is family planning. But in rural areas like these, the average family lives on just a few dollars a week. And it's no good raising awareness of different types of contraception if people simply can't afford them. And that's why, working together with a non-governmental organisation, or NGO, called Futures, the Gambian authorities are promoting a new development concept called social marketing.
Social marketing is a concept of putting health products into the commercial sector so that you increase access, so that you bring the products close to the people.
Every week, the Futures team delivers thousands of contraceptives to pharmacies across the Gambia. The price is subsidised by the World Health Organization, and that means that even the very poorest people can afford them. In the first 8 months, the project sold nearly 500,000 condoms and packets of pills. Quite an achievement in a country with a population of just 1.5 million.
Well, more people, especially women, more people are coming to ask for it. Even men also. In the case of condom, men always come and ask for it. Maybe because of the campaign which is going on, the awareness of the importance of family planning and so forth. Formerly, people were not aware of the importance of it. So I think actually the campaigning has contributed a lot.
Hello, good evening, listeners. Welcome to our weekly talk show, The Voice of the Family, coming to live from West Coast Radio on 95.2 FM. And I'm your presenter, Fatou Song. Tonight we will be discussing about family planning and contraception, so stay tuned. And
The awareness campaign and subsidised contraception are already having an effect. The population growth rate has fallen from 4.2% in 1993 to about 3% in 2005. But reducing the birth rate isn't just about providing affordable contraception.
Okay, my first wife, she has 7 kids. Okay, she lost 2. She's already with 5 now at the moment. Okay, the second wife also 2. She has 9. She lost 1. The rest are here.
If you think Jammeh seems unmoved by the death of 3 of his children, that may be because in the Gambia it's a very common occurrence. 1 in 10 children die before their 5th birthday. Families often have more children, as they know some will die young. To combat this trend, the government's launched a major child health program. This clinic, a mile or so from Jammeh's house in Serakunda, has been extended and refurbished with the help of funding from the Canadian government. It now provides basic healthcare for 50,000 people, many of them children. But reducing infant mortality is about preventing disease as well as treating it.
Every child has access to free vaccinations. And we do have a schedule of all the vaccinations. We do vaccinate against, 6 to 7 preventable childhood illnesses, including, tuberculosis, whooping cough, measles, yellow fever, hepatitis B, and so on.
The countrywide vaccination programme has already begun to bring the infant mortality rate down. But reducing the birth rate isn't just about improving the health of Gambia's children. Naima Traira is the duty nurse at a private maternity clinic. Here they offer a range of services aimed at improving the health of expectant mothers.
We help them to take care of themselves. We educate them on their physical well-being, and sometimes we even help them, counsel them on how to nurture themselves and their families. We are going to the labor ward now, yes.
In the 1990s, Gambia had a total fertility rate, or TFR, of 7. In other words, during her reproductive life, the average Gambian woman would have had 7 children. As well as providing medical care to make births safer, centres like this one encourage women to space their births to allow their bodies time to recover.
We always educate them to show them the importance of the spacing. Because if you don't space children, you always, every 2 years, 1 year, you have a child. The other one will not have a good health, and you won't be able to take care of that, your child, the one you have. So we always educate them also in that area so that their children can have health, and they also can be healthy mothers and taking care of their children.
The centre also offers counselling to women. And in a country where until recently talking about women's health was largely taboo, attitudes are changing remarkably quickly.
Men they are understanding now. They are accepting. Because many men, they bring their own wife. They even tell the wife, sometimes they even tell the wife that you should go to family planning. Yes, they send them for our service. They send their wives and they give them money, to pay fare to go. And sometimes they even escort them.
It's still early days, but better direct care for women, encouraging spacing and improving infant health care already appear to be having an effect.
If you look at the total fertility rate, it took a downward trend to 6 in year 2000. And we are about to conduct the next national demographic and health survey, And I wouldn't be surprised, to see that things are beginning to stabilize. But of course, it will take some time. And the implications, of course, if we do not have it stabilized, it will be worse for our economies, because the little money that the state should spend on development projects will have to be spent on other social, projects for this kind of situation.
Whether urban or rural, nearly all Gambians use firewood for cooking. They also use wood for housing, fencing, and furniture. As the population grows, so too does demand for this limited resource. But this is just one of the reasons that Gambia is being deforested at an alarming rate. At the turn of the century, most of the country was covered in thick forest. Since then, more than 2/3, or about 7,000 square kilometers of forest have disappeared. But with financial and technical help from the German government, the Gambian authorities have begun to act, launching a forest management plan that it's hoped will stop depletion and even begin restoring some of the degraded areas. Music and dance are just two of the ways that forest educators get villagers to think about the causes of deforestation. The ideas they talk about include overgrazing, clearing land for cultivation, and bushfires. If they're successful, the villagers attending this meeting will eventually be given full ownership of their own community forest. By helping the people who live in the bush to manage the forest themselves, the Gambian government hopes to slow or even halt the rate of deforestation. The forest educators also teach people to make better use of the many resources the forest has to offer. They've even begun trying to reverse some of the damage that's already been done. This is one of a number of government-owned and run forest parks. These protected areas are being regenerated, and it's illegal to graze cattle or take firewood.
This is Kaya senegalensis, commonly called Jalo in the Gambia. Normally before the planting season, we come out in the forest parks to scout for degraded sites so that we can do enrichment planting, so as to bolster the regeneration and then make the place more dense with viable tree species. So that is why this seedling is here. It was planted during the last planting season from mid of July up to early days of August. Yeah.
By returning forests to community ownership and running planting schemes in forest parks, the authorities have slowed the rate of destruction. But as Gambia's population continues to grow, the future of the forest depends on the next generation, and many believe the key to success lies in providing them with a good education. As one of the poorest 50 countries in the world, Gambia has a GDP, or gross domestic product, of about £1,000 per person. In order to get by, many families rely on income from their children, and 1 in 3 between the ages of 10 and 14 are working. In the 1990s, only 61% of girls attended primary school, and 3 out of 4 women were unable to read or write. But thanks to a government campaign, all that's beginning to change.
People are becoming more and more aware of the fact that if you educate a man, you are educating one person. But if you educate a woman, you educate a nation. So that is why education is taking a new turn now.
Education is the key of the world. Education is the key of the world. Yeah, if you're educated, you wouldn't mind to have any work with anybody. If the work find you, that's the most important one. Look at myself too. I'm not so educated. Because see, even my English is very poor because of I can't afford my father can't pay my school fees as well. So you can see, I have the same problem. So I wouldn't like my kids to have this kind of problem too.
Jame's daughters, Maroki, Helen and Mama, still do the chores like fetching drinking water, cleaning, washing, cooking and looking after younger brothers and sisters. But unlike their mothers, they also go to school. And that means they're much more likely to have fewer, healthier children.
People are becoming more and more aware of the fact that the more children you have, the more it is difficult to give them the right type of education. So we have to bring in the family planning concept to have smaller families, to give them good education, to give them the right type of education that is needed for them to be able to take care of themselves when they grow up.
This is Sakuta Lower Basic School, where some of Jame's children go. In the last 10 years, attendance here has almost doubled. Despite meagre resources, with careful management and help from foreign NGOs, the school's able to offer a basic education to more than 3,000 children.
What we are working now is quality. How do we maintain quality education? How do we give quality education to our children? Because without quality education, we are going nowhere. And to provide quality education, it needs resources. It needs manpower. And all that is money is expensive. And third world countries don't have enough money to meet those challenges.
With funding from the World Food Programme, all the children who come to school also get a daily meal of rice and beans. And for some, this will be the only proper meal of the day. Despite the lack of resources and other challenges created by Gambia's young and growing population, there's little doubt that these children are much better educated than their parents. Something which everyone agrees is vital, as they're the ones who'll be the decision makers of tomorrow, shaping Gambia's future and place in the world. It's Friday again and prayers are over. Jame's at the funeral of a village elder. In keeping with local Muslim tradition, women don't attend any part of the ceremony. But religious attitudes are beginning to change, especially when it comes to family planning. Most religious leaders used to be against all forms of contraception.
The Prophet, peace be upon him, said is afraid of population growth, that is getting too much of children without means to support them. But now, God the Almighty has helped us to have very simple way of spacing. That is the present contraceptive that we can use without having any problem. So Islam will always support that.
Whilst men largely remain the decision makers, family planning's no longer a taboo subject.
Sometimes they discuss openly with their husbands, and the husbands are bringing them. We feel difference. Before that was not happening, but now they come themselves and ask for the service.
Today, information about family planning's everywhere, even in youth clubs, something that used to be unthinkable. The results are already beginning to show. Population growth has slowed to just under 3%. But Gambia's children remain amongst the poorest in the world, and they're not alone. Across Africa, population growth and poverty go hand in hand. But local initiatives, international aid and debt relief are beginning to make a difference. And if this trend continues, then perhaps the next generation of children will have a future that's about more than just struggling to get by.
Social marketing,